What is the connection between Greece and the federal deficit? Hi, I'm Sven Larsson, economist with the Wyoming Liberty Group, and today I'm going to talk to you about some very serious issues that we have ahead of us. On the one hand, we have Greece. On the other hand, we have the federal budget deficit. Greece has just gone through a major fiscal crisis with a government that has been massively overspending, and they have used something called austerity to try to deal with it. The federal budget is also in deficit, and the reason is, of course, that we've had massive overspending over many, many years. How are we going to deal with the federal deficit? Well, one way to do it could be to copy what the Greeks have done, to import austerity. That would not be a good idea. Let me explain why. Austerity is a sustained policy of spending cuts and tax increases. Spending cuts can be good and bad for an economy. Tax increases are always bad. Bad spending cuts are the ones that are designed to preserve the welfare state, and they are usually combined with increased taxes. That is the kind of austerity that they have tried in Greece, and they are currently trying in Spain, Italy, Portugal, even the Netherlands and Belgium. It hasn't worked. The crisis has deepened. The situation is even worse today than it was a few years ago when they started the austerity policies. If we import these policies to America, we are going to have the same experience as they've had. We're going to be a Greece on steroids, if you will. Austerity has very bad consequences. It makes the country poorer because the government gives less back and takes more out of the economy. We will get, in other words, an increased inefficiency on top of the already inefficient government spending we have. That is why we want to avoid austerity. So how do we want to tackle the federal deficit? Well, essentially there are two alternatives. One harsh short-term strategy and one long-term, more sustainable strategy. The harsh short-term strategy would simply be to shut down government programs today, do away with the taxes, and leave the people who are in these programs today to fend for themselves until the private sector steps in. I do not advocate that as a strategy because of the economic and social consequences. Instead, my suggestion is to take the structural reforms seriously. A long-term dissolution or rollback and elimination of government spending programs, such as Medicaid, spending in education, on Title I, No Child Left Behind. So even Social Security and Medicare can be handled the same way. It takes a little longer, but it's done, if we do it predictably, if it's done the way I just described over a longer period of time, we will be able to give people a transition out of the government dependency and into private solutions over a sustained period of time, where the private sector will have time to step in. Let me sum up what I've just talked about. We have three ways to solve the federal deficit crisis. We have austerity, we have a cold turkey approach, a harsh short-term approach, or a long-term structural reform approach. Austerity will only make matters worse and is, frankly, sometimes used just to preserve the welfare state. And the welfare state is the root cause of the crisis. So we don't want that. The short-term cold turkey strategy, with just shutting down government programs overnight, essentially, will cause social and economic turmoil and is bad for the people who have been lured into dependency on government. So we don't want that. The best solution to the federal deficit crisis is to go about it the long-term structural reform way. Give us 5-6 years to do away with the spending programs and cut taxes proportionately. That way we can solve the deficit crisis. I'm Sven Larsson, economist with the Wyoming Liberty Group, and you have just watched a video about austerity and the federal deficit. Thank you.